The desert wind stung Lyra's face as she stumbled forward, her legs barely responding anymore. Every breath tasted like dust. Sena walked behind her, tiny feet dragging lines in the sand, her weak whimpers almost lost in the scorching wind. Lyra kept glancing back, checking on her, pushing herself forward only because the child needed her to. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, but the pain no longer mattered, only Sena did. By midday, the sun became a merciless enemy. Lyra's vision blurred, and the world shimmered like molten glass. She dropped to her knees, her palms sinking into the hot sand. Sena immediately knelt beside her, resting her trembling hand on Lyra's arm. "Sena, just a little farther," Lyra whispered, though she wasn't even sure she believed her own words. The little girl didn't reply. Her lips were cracked, her breaths shallow. Lyra brushed a strand of pale hair from her sister's face, fighting despair. She looked around desperately for shelter, water, anything, but the desert stretched endlessly in every direction. A distant rumble broke the silence. Lyra turned her head slowly, expecting another sandstorm. Instead, she saw silhouettes, tall, armored figures walking toward them. Humans, scavengers, the kind her tribe feared. Fear shot through her, but she couldn't run. She couldn't even stand. Sena pressed closer to her, instinctively seeking protection. Lyra raised her head, forcing herself to meet the strangers' shadowed faces. She knew this moment would decide their fate. She swallowed hard, breathing in the heat, and prepared herself whether it meant danger, humiliation, or death. For Sena, she would face anything. One of the humans stepped forward, his boots sinking into the sand with a heavy thud. Lyra instinctively pulled Sena behind her, though she could barely hold herself upright. Her arms shook, her breath trembling, but she lifted her chin anyway. She would not let them see fear, not if it meant protecting her sister. The man towering over them paused, studying the two alien girls with a mix of surprise and caution. His hand hovered near his waist, close to his weapon, but he didn't draw it. Behind him, two more humans approached, whispering among themselves, their eyes fixed on the starving pair. Lyra's heart pounded painfully in her chest. Her tribe had warned her about humans, how they captured, traded, and enslaved those who wandered alone. She remembered the stories. She remembered the screams. When the man bent down, lowering himself to her eye level, Lyra's survival instincts surged. She threw her hands out in front of her, palms flat against the sand, and bowed her head low. "Please," she said, her voice cracking as she forced the words out. "Don't hurt us. My sister, she needs food, water." Sena clung to her, tiny fingers gripping tightly, her breath shaky and uneven. Lyra swallowed hard, tears burning in her eyes. Then she made the offer she never thought she would make, an offer that shattered what little pride she had left. "I will serve you," she whispered. "Take me, make me your slave. Just feed her, please." The humans fell silent. The wind carried a low whistle through the dunes. Even the desert seemed to pause. The leader looked at her not with cruelty, but with something like disbelief. He hadn't expected a plea like this. He hadn't expected a young girl with cracked violet skin and shaking hands to sacrifice her entire future in a single breath. One of his men muttered, "Sir." "Their children." Lyra squeezed her eyes shut, certain the next sound she'd hear would be chains or rejection. But instead, the man slowly extended his hand toward her, not roughly, not in anger, just. Reaching, Lyra hesitated, her breath caught in her throat. She didn't understand what this gesture meant. Sena peered over her shoulder, eyes wide, just hoping this was not another nightmare in the endless desert. The man's hand remained suspended in the hot air, steady and open. Lyra stared at it, confused. No human she'd heard of ever reached out gently, not to her kind, not in the wastelands. Her instincts screamed for caution, but Sena's weak trembling against her shoulder pushed her to at least listen. Slowly, Lyra lifted her eyes to meet his. Dust streaked her face, but her gaze held a fierce, desperate resolve. The man didn't flinch at the sight of her violet skin or the fear in her expression. Instead, he drew in a breath and lowered his hand slightly, showing he meant no harm. "You don't have to kneel," he said quietly. The words struck her harder than a blow. For a heartbeat, she wondered if she'd misheard. Her mind, exhausted and terrified, struggled to understand. Another human stepped forward with a faint scowl. "We can't just take in every stray." The leader shot him a sharp glance, silencing him instantly. Then he returned his calm gaze to Lyra and Sena. "What's your name?" he asked gently. Lyra blinked, stunned. No captor asked that. No slaver cared. "Lyra," she whispered, "and my sister Sena." Sena peeked out, her small fingers gripping Lyra's arm tightly. The man nodded once. "Lira, Sena." He tested the names carefully, as if making sure he said them with respect. "We're not here to hurt you." Lyra felt her breath hitch. The desert wind whipped strands of hair across her face, but she didn't dare move. The man gestured to his water canister. "Let her drink," he said. "Your sister first." Lyra's eyes widened. She trembled as she watched him set the canister on the ground and gently push it toward them. It wasn't a trick. The scent of real water drifted up through the heat. Sena reached for it with shaking hands, her desperation raw and visible. Lyra helped her hold the container, watching her little sister gulp down precious mouthfuls. Tears welled in Lyra's eyes, hot and uncontrollable. The man waited, saying nothing, giving them space. When Sena finally pulled the canister away, gasping softly, Lira looked up at the leader again. You'll feed her, she whispered. He nodded. Both of you. A soft broken sound escaped Lyra's throat, half disbelief, half relief. Her arms tightened around Sena as if the child might vanish if she let go. She bowed her head, not in submission this time, but in overwhelming gratitude she didn't yet know how to voice. For the first time in days, for the first time since the war destroyed everything, Lira felt the faintest spark of hope.
The humans formed a loose circle around them as the wind shifted, lifting clouds of orange dust across the dunes. Lira held Sena close, still trembling, unsure whether to trust the kindness she'd been shown. Every instinct told her to stay alert. Mercy was rare in the wastelands. The leader reached into the pouch at his belt and pulled out a small ration pack, tearing it open before kneeling down and placing it gently on the sand between them. The scent of food drifted into the air, faint but real, enough to make Sena's eyes widen with longing. Let her eat slowly, the man advised. She's too weak to take much at once. Lira nodded silently. She took a small piece from the pack and placed it into Sena's hands. The child bit into it carefully at first, then a little faster, her hunger overwhelming her caution. Lira watched every movement, her heart clenching with relief and guilt at the same time. The men behind the leader murmured among themselves. Some looked uneasy, others showed hints of sympathy. One crossed his arms and stepped closer. "Captain, we don't even know where they come from," he said. "What if others follow?" Lira stiffened, tightening her arms around Sena. She expected the leader to reconsider, to pull back his offer, to decide that saving 2 alien girls wasn't worth the risk. But he didn't. He stood slowly and faced his crew with a firm expression. "No one's tracking them," he said. "If they had a tribe left, they wouldn't be crawling through the desert alone." He glanced back at Lira, just a brief look, but enough for her to see something unexpected in his eyes. Not pity, not judgment, something closer to responsibility. "We take them," he said. End of discussion. The others fell silent, even if they didn't fully agree. Out here, the captain's word was law. Lira swallowed hard, unsure what to feel. She wanted to thank him, to show gratitude, but exhaustion held her down like chains. The captain stepped toward her again, but this time much slower, giving her space to pull back if she wanted. "You'll come with us," he said softly. "No slavery, no forced labor. You're just coming somewhere safer than this." Lira lifted her gaze. The words struck a deep, raw place inside her. For so long, survival meant sacrificing everything: freedom, hope, even dignity. Now someone was offering them a future she never dared imagine. Sena finished her last bite and leaned against Lira, finally able to breathe more calmly. Lira ran her fingers through the child's hair, her voice nearly a whisper. If we go with you," she said shakily, "you won't regret it." The captain gave a small nod, not demanding more promises. "Let's get you out of the sun," he said. "You've suffered enough." As the humans prepared to lead them away, Lira looked out at the endless desert behind them, a place where she believed she and Sena would die. For the first time, she was walking away from despair, and toward something that felt almost like a new beginning. The captain motioned for his team to start moving, and 2 of the men stepped ahead to scout the path toward their temporary camp. Lira rose slowly, her legs weak and trembling. She kept one arm wrapped protectively around Sena, who clung to her side with renewed but fragile energy. Walking was difficult at first. Every muscle in Lyra's body screamed. Every step felt like dragging chains made of heat and exhaustion. But the captain stayed close, not crowding her, not touching her, simply walking beside her like a silent guardian. They soon reached a slope of packed sand where an all-terrain transport vehicle waited, its metal surface reflecting the harsh desert sun. The hum of its engine felt strangely comforting, almost like the heartbeat of something alive and powerful. As they approached, one of the human soldiers opened the back hatch. The interior was shaded, cool, lined with supplies, water containers, medical kits, ration boxes. Lira stopped short, staring at it as if it were a trap. Her chest tightened, her breath grew shallow. She had seen places like this used to transport prisoners, slaves. She felt her pulse spike. The captain noticed immediately. "Lira," he said gently, turning toward her. "It's safe." Lira shook her head slightly, instinctive fear tightening her grip around Sena. "I've seen cages that looked like this," she whispered. "I've seen what happens after the doors close." The captain's expression softened. He stepped aside, putting distance between himself and the entrance of the vehicle. "You get in when you're ready," he said calmly. "Nobody will force you, I promise." Promises meant nothing in the desert, but his eyes, steady, open, patient, made her pause. Sena tugged lightly on Lira's tunic. "I'm tired," she whispered. "I want shade." That was all it took. Lira exhaled shakily and helped her sister climb inside. The cool air washed over them like a blessing. Lira followed, still tense but less afraid. Inside, Sena settled against a stack of folded blankets, her small body curling with relief. Lira brushed her fingers across the child's forehead. For once, her skin wasn't burning hot. For once, she looked almost peaceful. The captain climbed in after giving them enough time to settle. He handed Lira a sealed container of clean water and another ration pack. She took them carefully, as if afraid they weren't real. Why? She whispered suddenly. Why help us? You don't know us. The captain leaned back against the metal wall, arms loosely folded. We're all fighting the same desert, he said quietly. Some people forget that. I haven't. Lira lowered her gaze, her throat tightening. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. As the vehicle rumbled to life and began moving across the dunes, Lira held Sena close, listening to the steady hum and feeling, for the first time in years, a fragile sense of safety. She didn't know where they were going. She didn't know what awaited them, but for the first time since, their world had been torn apart. The future didn't feel like a death sentence, it felt like possibility. The transport rumbled across the dunes, its steady motion rocking Sena into a light sleep. Lira held her close, feeling each small breath rise and fall against her chest. The cool shade, the hum of the engine, the distant voices of the humans, it all felt unreal. Like a dream she might wake from at any moment. After a long stretch of silence, the vehicle slowed. Lira tensed immediately, her instincts flaring. She glanced toward the captain, who met her gaze calmly. We're at camp, he said. You're safe here. The hatch opened with a hiss of hot air, revealing a cluster of makeshift tents, supply crates, water drums, and tall metal towers collecting solar energy. Humans moved about, some repairing equipment, others unloading cargo. They all paused when they noticed the two alien girls. Their expressions ranged from curiosity to concern, but none looked cruel. Lira stepped out cautiously. Her legs wobbled, but she stayed upright for Sena's sake. The captain guided them toward a large tent near the center of camp, its entrance shaded with thick fabric to keep the heat out. Inside, the air was cool and filled with the scent of herbs and sterilized tools. A medic stood waiting, hands already prepared with gentle intentions. This is Myra, the captain said. She'll check your sister, just to make sure she's stable. Lira froze. No, she whispered, pulling Sena closer. No strangers touch her. Myra paused, lowering her hands. She didn't push forward. May I show you first? She asked softly. Every tool I use, every step. Her voice held no impatience, no authority on my understanding. Slowly, Lira nodded. They spent a minute going through each item. Only when Lira gave permission did the medic kneel and begin checking Sena's pulse, hydration, and breathing. Lira hovered protectively the entire time. She's weak, Myra said gently, but she'll recover. She just needs rest, water, and regular food. Lira exhaled shakily, her knees nearly giving out in relief. She sank to the ground beside Sena, brushing her fingers through her sister's hair. Tears stung her eyes. But this time they weren't from fear. The captain stepped closer and crouched beside her. You can stay here as long as you need, he said. No one will demand anything from you. You're not prisoners. Lira lifted her gaze. For the first time, she met his eyes without flinching. I don't understand, she whispered. People don't do this. Not for us. Maybe more should, he replied quietly. Sena stirred and reached for Lira's hand, mumbling softly. Are we safe now? Lira kissed her sister's forehead. Yes, she whispered, her voice breaking. We're safe now. The captain stood, giving them space. Rest, he said. Food and water will be brought soon. As he stepped out of the tent, Lira watched him go, still unsure how to process the weight lifting slowly from her chest. The desert had taken everything from her: her home, her tribe, her innocence. But here, in this unexpected oasis of strangers, something new sparked inside her. Not fear, not desperation. Hope.